Well, Shannon, welcome. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to talk to us this afternoon. How are you doing? How's everything in this crazy time at your place?
Yeah, it's been fine. It's like not that much of a difference to me because I work from home anyway. I have two young babies, like a toddler, a 2-year-old, and an 8-month-old, so I don't have to do all the homeschooling stuff.
Yeah,
It's just my toddler usually goes to a babysitter a couple of days a week, so now she's at home with me full time. And we normally do like an activity in the mornings, but we're obviously not doing that so much. So yeah, it's not too bad for me. I know there are
yeah.
people are doing it way harder, and it's a way like a huge interruption in their life. But yeah, I'm all right.
That's well. Look, I think everyone's kind of got their own thing going on, and I'm sure you probably are seeing it with some of your community as well. That people are obviously going through a bit of a crazy time. And firstly, I just wanted to say, yeah, as I said, thank you for coming up. But also, I think it's going to be interesting to talk to you, especially about the creative industries in particular, and how that's going to really have to. There's going to be some major changes in that, and I'm really excited. And I know a lot of other people who are in creative industries, whether it be fashion or restaurants, whatever it may be, something from a creative standpoint are going to have to really pivot. And I think your knowledge in this space is amazing. So what I might do is just start off by getting you to explain your background and what you're doing now, how you got to where you are, and yeah.
Yeah, cool. It's kind of a long story, but yeah, like originally I studied fashion design. So I wanted to be a fashion designer essentially. And then once I finished that, I spent more years like traveling and working. I always had an interest in working directly with small businesses because I always had this question in my mind because I knew I wanted to work for myself ever since I had my first job at 15 at Safeway or Woolworths at the supermarket. I was like, I want to work for myself, and I knew it, and I just didn't know what I was going to do. And then I was obsessed with working with like small businesses. So throughout my 20s, so I'm early 30s now, I spent all this time working so I could work directly with the founder of the business. And I was like soaking up everything because my question was always like, how did they start this? How did they start this? And so I was able to see like everything they were doing and everything they were thinking, and like I got close with them and became really good contacts with them everywhere that I worked. So I did a lot in fashion mostly. I did so I ended up in the sustainable and ethical fashion space,
Yeah.
which was really interesting to me. And this is such a niche, especially when I started in there like 10 years ago. It was like unheard of. So these people were like really up and coming and really super niche. So many problems because, they just have these values that they want to get out into the world and help others. But it was like nobody had just even heard of it and didn't understand it. So there was a lot of challenges around that. And so I also worked doing like hospitality. I worked a lot in hospitality because I just loved it. I had my first job in hospitality while I was studying, and then I just kept the jobs going because I just loved it because you could connect face to face with your customers.
Yeah.
You just like get to know them, and they just come in for a coffee, but then they stay for 20 minutes and chat to you. Like I would always get told off by my boss for like chatting too much. It was just like I built this rapport with these clients, and I loved it. And they kept coming back like when I was working specifically so they could see me. So it was great. And yeah, so I've done, and then retail, I've always had like 2 jobs pretty much on the go. So it seems like I've done a lot, but it's always like at the same time. So yeah, a lot of retail as well for the same thing, same reason, like interest in fashion, and then also working face to face with people. And yeah, so I did fashion design, and then I went back to school and did fashion and textile merchandising, which was all the business side of the fashion industry.
Right.
Then I did my degree in international business, and I ended up going over to Germany. I was also traveling a lot during this time and just getting ideas and working with. I ended up going to Germany for a while and working with a couple of small sustainable fashion labels there, and they're at different points in their business journey. One was more established and one was a startup of like 2 years. So I was working with them there, and it was great to see the industry, like because Germany and Europe is so far ahead in terms of sustainability compared to Australia. So it was really good to get a comparison and then bring that knowledge back home to the businesses that I'd already worked with, and help them to see what was happening in Europe and bring those ideas back. So that was great. And so, yeah, so I've always worked really closely with businesses, and then I actually started my own sustainable fashion label a few years back.
Awesome.
And then the only reason I stopped doing that is because when I had my first baby 2 years ago, I realized that it's not, like, I didn't want to put her in childcare 5 days a week. That's just not what I wanted to do. And so I always thought, oh, you know, when she's born 3 months later, I'll go back to work and be fine. But I didn't realize how much I was going to love this as a person, to be honest.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I made the really hard decision to give it up and pivot to going back to what I'd always realized that I loved doing, which was just working with small business, helping them, working face to face, and just teaching basically everything that I've learned.
Yeah. So Shannon, what's your vision? Because obviously you've got your business is called the Founder's Vision, but I want to know what's behind the business. What drives you every day to get out and do this?
So basically, it's just it's a couple of things really. When I started it, because I want to work specifically with female entrepreneurs. Because I really see they have these really unique struggles compared to, like, I've worked with males and females, I should say, in these small businesses, and I just feel women have this really unique struggle between they're not as confident in putting themselves out there and making decisions and thinking that people will even buy what they're offering and that sort of thing. And they just they don't have the same opportunities that men have in terms of, you know, it's really hard for females to get funding and like from VC. So it's just an uneven playing field, and it's just a society that we're in at the moment. And I just wanted to help them, like, level up sort of a thing and lift them up that way. So there's that side of it. And then specifically with creatives and service-based businesses is because, I see that these people have a passion and, like, they love it, and they just had the thought, you know, I want to turn it into a business. But the reality is it's not as simple as just going out and selling your stuff on Etsy or opening a Wix Squarespace site and just selling it. Like, there's so much more that goes behind it, but because they're so creative minded, they can't get their head around the sort of the business side of it. But for me, both, because I am a creative, but at the same time, like, I stepped more into the business side because I love the business side and the processes and all this sort of stuff. And there's just a huge gap for a lot of creatives between, okay, my passion and an actual business and making money and making a living. So that at the moment.
Sorry, Shannon, you continue.
So I just want to help them get unstuck from this. You know, they want the business because they want the freedom, but they're not free at all. They're, like, more bogged down than ever and stressed than ever. So yeah, that's my why, to just get them out of that, to live their dream life.
And I think the other thing too is that if you are that creative visionary within the business and it's your baby as such, it's really hard to move away and build trust in a team to be able to scale the business as well. And I think that's where so many people get stuck. And that's why I love what you do, because, you know, I've been there, I've gone through that. I understand let me say, I now appreciate the elements of process and structure, which is for a creative very, very difficult to wrap your head around sometimes. So I think what you're able to, and we'll talk about your 4 pillars of success, which is, I think, something people are going to get a lot of value out. You know, I think especially in a time like this where, you know, even if you did have a semi-successful business in a traditional sense, maybe it was a brick and mortar retail store or something like that, everything needs to change. That means there's going to be a new process or new elements within it to be able to make sure that the business succeeds. And I think that's where you can add so much value today. So what I would love to go through is maybe just talk about the pillars you've come up with within your framework, because I think it's really important for people to understand the kind of different elements that go into allowing them to become free, as you say, within their business. So let's start off with your first pillar, vision.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So my model, my framework is the 4 pillars of success. So the first one, I'll just outline them first and we'll dive in a little bit deeper. It's a bit easier. So the first one is your vision. So that is basically your dream life. You know, if everything went as you wanted to, what would that look like in your business and life? So I should preface this by saying I have created like a holistic approach. So I don't just, because that's the other problem for women is that, you know, we are the sole carers of children and family members, and that's just the role we have in society. So it's impossible for us to separate business and life. So that's why I don't at all, like everything that I do takes in consideration their life as well as the business. So the vision is about, your dream life, including your business and your life. How is it going to look? And it also includes your mindset, so the stories that they're telling themselves. The next one is processes. So everything like what you've just said, we've talked about is, just how the business runs and making it as efficient as possible. So you're not wasting any resources whatsoever. Then the next one is your company culture. Also, your team and that sort of a thing, the relationships you have. And then the last one is your well-being. So that's a big focus on just you as the business owner, as the founder, and looking after yourself. So they're the four. I'll go into them a bit more. So basically,
I just want to say that's just before we go into them, Shannon. I think it's it is a very different. And we're not trying to generalize on sex here, but it is very different for women. It's not just, I think, the environmental things, but if you're a parent, or if you've got other, things going on at home where you're trying to manage that. That's why I love what you do so well, is that it allows you to still maintain that balance. And it's just, I think the four elements that you've got here are really integral. And what happens, I tend to see, is that one of these four, or maybe two of these four, if one goes out of kilter, it kind of throws everything off. So being able to make sure that people they know that the simple toolkit, it seems simple, but there are elements within that. Once they understand this, it can completely change their entire outlook on their business and their life. So I'm really excited to go through this with you. So let's dive into vision.
Yeah, sure. Well, you hit the nail on the head. Took away, if you think about them all now, if you took away one of them, your business wouldn't work. If you took away your well-being, your business wouldn't work. If you took away the processes, it's not going to work. So these four are all foundational to your business.
Yeah,
so
100%.
For any situation like what you have right now with COVID-19, any challenges, any day of the week, if you have all of these, you need all of these to get through anything. You know what I mean? Like, you have to have them all sorted before you can even think about how you're going to get through COVID-19, before you're even going to think about how you're going to sell to your customers. Like, you need these. So your first one, like, your vision. So this is like what you've said to me, like your why, it's why are you getting out of bed? It's what do you want to achieve? What is your dream life? Because between where you are now and your vision, that's how you're going to set your goals. That's what you're going to base it off, and then you work backwards from there. Because a lot of people have trouble with goal setting, and it's like they think either too short term, and then they're not really thinking the long term of being like, okay, so I set a goal to sell to 10 people today, but how does that impact what your long term thing is? And then, or if they set something way too long term, but then they're actually working on all these things that don't even matter to that in the end. It's you need to have clear. You're not clear on it, then you just end up in 5 years and you're like, where am I? What am I doing? This isn't actually where I wanted to be. So that's why you need to be clear on your vision, and you need to be looking at this like daily. Like I have it as written in my diary, and I read it like every single day. And then it's the basis of everything. Every decision that you make needs to be related to your vision,
So many business owners lose that, and I think it's such an important point. We can get bogged down on all these other things that completely are not aligned to what we're trying to do. So what's some tips, like you mentioned having a diary, like what's some tips people could do to proactively create their vision or be clear on what their vision is?
So basically you just got to sit down and you've really got to concentrate on it and sit down and ask yourself a bunch of questions. So it's basically figuring out what your values are in life. So if your values are things like you want to contribute ethically, if I use the fashion example, like you want to contribute ethically to the fashion industry. You value relationships with your family and your close circle of friends. You value health and well-being. Like if you sit down and think about, this is where it all comes from. What are your core values? And then from there you can think about, okay, so how do I embody those in my business and in my life? And then you can kind of think about, okay, so what are the sort of steps I need to take to have those in my life and to live that? And then, then you end up writing it I would suggest definitely you have to write it down.
Yeah.
So you
People
write
miss
down,
that
okay.
though. People miss that. They
Yeah,
forget that
that's
part.
it. It's like having a goal. Like there's like a saying: if you have a goal that's not written down, it's just a dream. Like
yeah,
you have to write it down because you are going to get lost in the busy work of every day and just like reacting to emails and things like this.
Yeah.
But if you have it written down and you read it every single day, it kind of sets the tone, okay, and you can come back to that and make decisions. So yeah, just go back to your values. Think about the things that you want to achieve in life, what's important to you, and it's just as simple as writing it down. But yeah, you just got to take the time to do it. That's the key. A lot of people don't do this.
No, and that's so true. And I think, that's awesome. I think that's some really good tips. And I think making sure that you're tracking your goals, you're writing, like you said, a journal or something like that, and actually putting down, hey, something I do, which, I started probably doing this about 1.5 years ago, is that at the end of each day, I've got a book where I just write down 5 great things that happened that day, and it's purely, what I love about it is that I can see if it's aligned to where I'm wanting to go, which is cool. And even if it isn't, whatever. But the cool thing is I can go back now and look over months and nearly years now, and actually see the trajectory and the cool things that have happened, because you forget those small things. And it's the small steps sometimes that, together collectively get you to that big picture. Nothing happens overnight, right? So
that's it.
And I guess, and I really am interested, for me, we'll go on to the next one, process, because process is something I've struggled with for a long time. I took is it Myers-Briggs? What's the one where it's like the 4 letters? I don't know, one of those personality tests. And basically, I think I got 1 for process and detail. It's just not my thing. I'm ideas, visionary, like that's me. So luckily, I have the luxury of having an operations head in our business to be able to facilitate that. But prior to that, I had to go through a whole lot of pain of learning what happens when you don't have process, and lost a lot of money, lost clients, lost things because I was doing everything myself. But you get to a point where that ain't sustainable. So I'd love to hear more about your thoughts on process, how you kind of work with people to identify what their process is or processes that they need and all that kind of stuff, because it is, I can't stress, if you are creative, you need to get this sorted.
Yes.
It will,
that's it. I know whether it's you, if you really can't, that's the thing, identifying if you can do it or if you need someone to do it for you. That's the first step. So basically what I would do is, so I'd sit down and look about, so we're looking at like, what are their profit generating activities? What are the things they sort of love to work on and that sort of a thing? Because the goal is basically to make everything more efficient. So you're not wasting time, so you're not wasting money, and so you're not wasting your effort and your energy of anyone's energy in your whole company, like you don't want to waste any of these things. So your processes, having them like perfect or as perfect as they can be, are going to save you all of this hassle basically. So it's really like simple, but it's all about just looking at everything as a step-by-step thing. So it can be as simple as like, I'll give you an example for like a cafe or something. So a process, like everything has a process, how you brush your teeth in the morning is a process. So if you think of it like a cafe, the customer walks in, they go to the counter to order, the order goes into the computer, the customer gets a table number, sits at the table. The ticket goes to the chef. The chef cooks the meal, puts it back out, rings the bell. The waitress takes it to the table. All right, so that's pretty typical. But like if you think about, if you took out one element of that process and say the customer didn't get a table number and they just went and sat down. So then the meal would come out, and then either whoever took the order at the counter would be like, okay, so where is the customer? And they look around and they're like, they're wasting time right now that they could be serving somebody else, and so someone else in the line is getting annoyed that they're waiting. The customer who's waiting for their food is getting annoyed, so they're just wasting time, and then that can impact like way down the line. Or somebody else who has come to pick up the thing who didn't actually serve the customer, has no idea what they look like, and would just rely on a table number generally, as like, okay, they have to find the person who took the order, who may be with a customer, so they have to wait or they have to interrupt, and then they have to go and find like
headaches everywhere.
Yeah, like that's just like such a simple process, But unless you have it like running really smoothly, like it can just one simple little mistake or simple little step that you're missing is just going to like throw everything off. So it's all about going back to looking at every single thing that you do every day, like literally writing it down step by step. Okay, how is this working? Who's involved? And what you have to do, the key is to make it, you're continuously improving it. So once you have a process, don't think that, okay, it's done and dusted now, and then you never have to think about it again, because there's always going to be a better way to do it. It'll just come up like within your work, or someone else will mention it or whatever. Like you just have to have the mindset that you're aware of, okay, there's always going to be a better way to do something. You know, that's just the mindset that you have to have all of the time. And then that's how you get your processes under control.
Oh, God, I love that. And I love what you said there about documenting, because what I was very bad at, I'm speaking from personal experience here, because as I said, I've been through this, was not doing that. But then there were like, I guess a hack for me, like I do a lot of stuff online, obviously, digital marketing. So what I would do, because I'm not a great typer, I get bored quickly. So I just got a video app and just started recording myself doing things. And like that, there's different ways of collecting this information. And then I got someone to transcribe it, because I was like, oh, too busy. I think I love what you said about don't just sit and forget, always be looking at it daily, because there are so many things that can change. Like obviously right now, there's a lot of change going through how people are going to be transacting in certain, organizations and, all that kind of stuff. So it's really, really important to maintain that. And I love that. And I guess when it comes to process as well, like how do you think you should be leaning on people if you've got a business that's got more than one or two people? Like, is there benefit of leaning on the team, and if so, why?
Yeah, 100%. So this will tie into sort of the culture stuff as well, and your vision. Like I believe wholeheartedly in including your team in everything that you do, because at the end of the day, whatever vision you have, they need to be involved in that. As well. Yeah. They need to know what they're working towards as well. Everything can't be segregated, like, in the office cubicles or whatever, because, they need to know what's happening. And for processes, especially, like, as the founder or the leader of the business, as you're growing your team, this means that you're handing over the reins to some degree, to certain degrees from people. So you can't be on top of every single process that's now in the business. So you need to have your team under this, on top of this, and looking out for, okay, where are some inconsistencies, where are the ways that we can do things better, and just have them also have that mindset of, continuous improvement and looking for ways so that they can come back to you, or they can do it amongst themselves. Like if you have enough trust in them, that they just alter things themselves to make things more efficient.
And this is like, it. You have to. And this is the scary part for a lot of people who have got their own business, right? And they're trying to scale it past that. You have to, in my experience, you have to have vision. You've got to have trust. And the tighter your processes are, the easier it is to scale. If you've got new team members coming in and there isn't a document that goes, hey, welcome to X business. Here's what we stand for. Here's how we do this. Here's how we do that. Here's how we do this. Here's how we unlock the door. Here's how we do, like, people will make mistakes. The more detail you've got, the better it allows them to be a happy, engaged employee. And then that directly feeds into culture, as you said. I love how you've connected all them together, because I honestly think, and I said this at the beginning, if they're not connected and one falls away, it impacts everything, completely impacts everything.
Yeah.
I guess it leads into culture, and I'm a big fan of culture and the ability to, my personal belief is that everyone within the team will have something different to add, whether it be the junior person to the most senior person. Everyone's got a very different view on how the business runs, and obviously making sure that people feel supported and feel that they are part of the vision, right? I love it. So that's what I really align with how you work. So I guess you want to talk a bit more about the importance of culture, why it's important to even have a culture, and then we can kind of go.
Yeah, sure. Well, I love what you're saying. Like, it's so true. So and it's true how I structured this as well. So I'm always going to be overlapping, but all of the pillars sort of relate to each other. So if you start off with your vision, you need your team to achieve your vision. Like, you can't do it on your own. So they're there. So without them, you're not going to have a business. You're not going to grow. You're not going to get to your vision. So you need them, and you need the people that you can trust, and you need to let yourself trust them as well. You know, like you said, your business is your baby, and it's really hard to let go of that, but you're not going to get anywhere unless you trust them and unless you include them in your vision. So it's really important to not just sort of have a relationship with them where it's like, okay, like giving them tasks and things like this. It's important to sort of build a proper relationship where they feel that they can come to you for anything, whether it's personal or professional, you know. So like, give you an example, like how old am I? 10 years ago or something, I was working for like quite a big company then. And I had a lot of personal issues going on, and it was affecting my work, you know, and I had to tell my supervisor about this, and it wasn't very well received, and it made life difficult for me at work. And I still wanted to work, I still wanted to do my best. It was nothing about that, but of course, like I said, your personal life and your work are always going to overlap anyway. So you need to make sure you have a team culture that you're open to the fact that these people also have lives, and that 100%. They're going to do their best for you if you give them the chance and if you build rapport with them as well. So it's not just about, okay, work, task. You know, there's got to be a balance of both. So yeah, it's about building those kind of relationships, and also ensuring that the team has these sorts of relationships as well. So, you know, multifaceted. It's not just you one-on-one with each of them. It's got to be a team as a collective as well. So like, I sort of like the idea that, you know, projects are open. So like what you said, everyone has different knowledge and skill sets and stuff. So making projects open and visible, whether they're on a board or something like that. So anyone walking past, or, you know, they're on their break and they go into the room and they see, okay, what's happening now? And then maybe they have ideas that they can contribute to another team member. Idea. You know? Because, yeah, it shouldn't be divided that only the marketing team is working on this and only the content creation team is working on this, because you don't know anyone else's background, experience, like life experience. True. Anything could trigger something in them that could help you. So I think all workloads should be open. Everything should be shared. That should be about relationships. And, yeah, just trust, like you said. So I think it's really important, because otherwise, yeah, like I said, you're not going to get to where you want to be. You're not going to retain the best people. Like I've worked, you know, working in hospitality and retail, like you have some pretty horrible bosses sometimes. So they just like, you know, I've had bosses that have only cared about money and not about people. And because hospitality has a very, very high turnover rate, and, you know, that contributes to the culture of the industry, basically, because it's like everyone's replaceable. But, you know, there are people that for any type of job, you've got to have this mindset that if they're getting treated right, they're going to do the absolute best for you. No matter what you ask them, they'll go above and beyond. So true. You know, even if it's not their own personal vision, it becomes sort of a part of them because of their connection to you and how well you treat them. So you can't, like you said, it could be like the lowest person in the organization, but you can't discount that and think and treat them different to how you would treat like your right arm sort of person. Everybody is valuable.
And I think, look, I spoke to another speaker last week about this, and I think in this, obviously, when drama happens or the world goes to dire straits as we're going through right now, I think this is so important to be able to have these relationships or even start building upon them as well, because it's, you know, work for some people right now is going to be, if they've still got work, is going to be the glue that potentially, or the only stable going through everything else in their life's gone to flux. So I think relationships with people within your team who you respect and you can be open and honest with, you know, it's important. And something like, obviously a lot of people are stuck at home now, and you can do this on video calls or conferences every day with your team or whatever that may be. So, and do you feel like you can still, I guess that's a question too, do you think you can still build a culture through digital means and stuff like that? If you've got any ideas or any tips that might help people during this time?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's not too different to being in the office or where, like, your workplace anyway, really, because of video calling. Like, there's absolutely no excuse why you shouldn't be in contact with your team, even like face to face like this. Like, there's no excuse really when you think about it. So I am a bit like, I really believe in, having sort of team catch-ups, not necessarily like a 2-hour-long meeting or anything,
Yeah.
but, having sort of these catch-ups and check-ins, and whether you've got Slack, this app that you can use that's great for teams, and you have like different subjects and things like that where people can post in it. But I think you need to be in contact pretty regularly. Probably now that you're at home, like it's going to be more of an effort to be in contact with people because you're not just seeing them around every day. So it's a bit more of an effort, but there's like no reason why you shouldn't do it. And the other thing I wanted to say on this situation right now and team culture is, so I'll give you an example of like my mother-in-law at the moment. She's working for a company and like, they're sort of expected to work more hours than what they're being paid for, because I get that the businesses don't have the money to pay like full-time wages all the time and stuff now, but which is fine, and most people will understand that, but be careful about what you expect from your team at this time. So if you have a great team culture and you tell your team like how much you love them and include them in everything, they're just going to naturally want to do more work anyway because they love their job and they love you. But if you don't have that team culture behind you now, you can't go expecting them to go above and beyond when you haven't built relationships and, they're working based on threats and things like that. Like, maybe they'll do the hours, but they're going to do the bare minimum and nothing else, and they're not going to be doing it with like their heart, so it's not really going to benefit you anyway. So that's why in situations like this it's really good to have the team culture behind you, and if you don't have it, like start building it now, making the effort now, so then anytime any other challenges come up, because they're always going to come up, the COVID-19 is one, but there's going to be more. It's like not the be all. So for the next challenge that comes up, they're going to be behind you. So that's a really important thing to think
couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. And I guess this is a time where, as you said, if you haven't built it's going to be very hard to get people to act in their full wholeheartedness within the business, I guess. But it doesn't mean you can't start building it now. And I think that's the thing I think is really important with people, is to maybe use this as a moment to change your position on how you treat people or how people are engaged, or get feedback from your team. Ask them, like I've sometimes done a anonymous survey to the team when I'm trying to find out information about certain parts of business that I might not be across at all. And the things you get back, man, sure. And as long as you act on that, you don't just go.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. And if your team culture hasn't been good and you know that, don't just try and change things now without saying anything. Be open and say, look, I'm sorry, guys, we need to work on this, because 100%. That's the way you build trust. If you just start turning around and being nice to them when you haven't been nice, they're going to be a bit wary and be like, what's happening? Yeah. Just be open and say, you know what, I've made mistakes. I've been doing this wrong. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And just be open and say, this is what we're doing now. Trust me, basically.
Oh, and that's it. But then follow through. Don't just say one thing and do the opposite. And I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with. And it is really hard when you're stressed and you're going through a lot of stuff. And I guess that's why, when your last pillar, well-being, is so important, because as a leader, you can take everything on. And I know I'm guilty at that. Sometimes, I can, I've just taken me a while to be able to manage the stress of having a team, having a business, having all these responsibilities, but still make sure that I'm looking after myself. So I'd love to hear more about where your thoughts are with well-being and why that's one of your integral pillars.
So this came about actually, so part of my why and why I started this business and everything is I myself, I've suffered a breakdown, depressive episode, just, for me, when I'm stressed, I lose weight and I don't eat and all of this sort of stuff, and I'm quite small anyway, so it's really obvious. So I know what it's like to have just been totally burnt out, because I was working, and it was mostly work. I was just working, and I was studying at the time as well, so I had business and study and all of it, and I just I would just schedule every hour of my day of work, full of work and study, and then I ended up not seeing friends anymore, and so I've had to rebuild relationships, and lucky my friends are great, and that sort of a thing. So I've been on that side of it, and so it's what I say now is to clients is like schedule yourself first. So when you look at your schedule for the week, put in first something for you. I don't care whether it's a 30-minute walk every day or something like that. Like, you have the time, you need to prioritize it. That's the key. Like, if because if you don't schedule it, you'll get Friday and be like exhausted and be like, oh crap, like I forgot to, I really wanted to like go to yoga this week and I didn't. So you need to just put it into your calendar so it's there. It's an appointment that you can't change and you can't cancel. Like, think of it as, your best customer. Like, you put it first. You wouldn't cancel on your best customer if they wanted to like have a chat with you. So why would you cancel with yourself? So that's my top tip, like schedule it. So think about, and self-care and well-being look different for everybody, so you have to think about what brings you joy, what makes you feel good, what keeps you healthy, what keeps your mind healthy, because so I talk about it's always like physical and mental. So for me, if I just give the example of myself, so I do yoga, and before kids I was like meditating, set aside time for meditation and stuff. Now it's like when I have 5 minutes, I'll take like a breathing break, I call it. So it's just like they're in bed, okay, quick, go in my bedroom, just take 5 minutes to like decompress, breathe before I start work or whatever. And it's even something as simple as like a cup of tea. Like, instead of having a cup of tea and like sitting at your desk on your email, just have the cup of tea with nothing else. That's a form of self-care. It's a break. Yeah. It's just all about taking breaks and just doing the things that you love. So at the moment, obviously we can't see our friends, but like I said, video calls, there's no excuses not to do that sort of a thing. There's online fitness things. We're still, in Australia, we're in stage 3 and we're allowed out to go do our exercise each day. So you can still do it. It's just the fact of getting into the habits. And it's, again, like every other pillar, it's your mindset. Like, you have to be in that mindset that you need to put yourself first, because at the end of the day, if you burn out, like, your business is going to suffer. So it's just hard, because we always like, and I've had this mindset myself, and it sometimes still like creeps in, like I'm not the perfect well-being, super chill, like, put myself first person. But it's like you get this mindset where it's like, I just have to do one more thing. I just have to work for 1 more hour. I'll do yoga tomorrow. Like, it's like you just keep putting it off. But, it happens enough times. It only has to happen like 3 days in a row, and you can like burn out and feel like crap, or get a cold comes on. Like, that's another stress thing for me. I get a cold if I haven't slept very well or something like that, So you just have to be in the mindset to prioritize yourself first. Start with small changes, small habits, taking a 5-minute break every 2 hours or something like that, or getting up and not checking your phone, but instead going for a walk. And it'll take a bit, but it'll all start to trickle down. And you just got to, have the mindset that if I don't put myself first, then my business is going to suffer. I'm not going to get to where I want to go. So then it'll be like, what's the point of even having your business?
Exactly. You end up more stressed than you were when you were doing whatever you were beforehand. And I think the nice thing about this, again, it all feeds through, because then if like, I can, from my own experience as well, once we had processes put in place and we had, things that the team could take more responsibility, it gave back more time for me. So then, I wasn't working 16 hours plus crazy hours. And that was, but that was also, I look back at me, that was me just wanting to succeed so much that I was putting so much into it, but I definitely wasn't looking after myself in any capacity as where it should be. And as soon as you start balancing it out, and that's why I said, I love your all pillars, because it's all about balance, really. And everything kind of gets into alignment, and it just makes everything so much better. And, as you said at the beginning, making sure that you actually have a business you love and you enjoy.
Yeah, that's
really important. Really important. So I guess, Shannon, you've probably spoken to a lot of clients recently about what's going on and stuff. And I know that you are kind of organising something that might be of interest to people. So do you want to talk about your initiative that you've got coming on in the next week?
Yeah, sure. So just launching it's a free 5-day challenge through Facebook. And yeah, so it's for female entrepreneurs with a creative service business, and it's called Discover Opportunities for Your Creative or Service Business. So basically what I'm going to do is take you through 5 days, and every day I'll be jumping on a live, so you can answer questions, and I'll explain in detail, okay, what we're going to do. So it's just small tasks. It's nothing overwhelming. It's just small things. And by the end of it, you're going to have you're going to have come up with a whole bunch of opportunities for your business.
Awesome.
And also, most importantly, you're going to know how to take action on them.
I love this.
You might have the opportunities, but it's like, oh my God, what do I do with this? Where do I start?
Do it? Yeah. And I think that's the biggest issue. Everyone that I know has got all these ideas, and I've spoken to a lot of people who, and I guess are in positions where they're trying to think of potentially new business opportunities or even new businesses. And I think it's great to have the ideas, but if you haven't done it before, or you just feel really overwhelmed at the moment, I think that's a really amazing thing that you're offering. So it would be great when I post this up, if you don't mind just sharing the group link, and then if anyone's got any questions, they can jump in, or because I think there'll be a lot of people in here that would actually get some benefit out of that. And when's that kicking off? Is it this week?
So it's going to start next Sunday, April 26th. So I've got the group open now. Yeah.
Awesome.
So the group's open now, so you can join, and then I'll jump in there and do a couple of lives and get things started and just have a chat and see where everyone's at and that sort of a thing, and offer whatever advice I can. So it's kind of I kind of picture this as a little mini mentor program. I'm gonna help people as much as I can, and that's why it's not just a set and forget sort of challenge. Here's your tasks, go off and do it. It's I want to hold your hand through this whole process and actually get you some results out of this, and some actions to take.
That's so cool. And you mentioned it's free?
Yeah, it's free. Yep.
Yeah, wow. So this is what I love. I think it's so cool at the moment how everyone who has something to give back is giving back. And I think, so awesome that you're doing this. And so you said for female creatives, so when you say creatives, as I mentioned up front, it's can you just give some examples of what a creative industry could be, so people just 100% clear if this is the right thing for them?
Yeah, sure. So when I say creative services, so it's anything if you're in the fashion industry, hairdressing, beauty, could be a yoga studio or a restaurant or a cafe or anything. If you think about your passion that you just like to make and serve, and you have it as a business now, it's that sort of a thing.
Awesome.
So
amazing.
Yeah.
Well, look, I think that's so cool. And as I said, we'll share it in the group and we'll pass it around. And I guess, is there anything else today that you want to bring up, or that you've seen over the last few weeks that you think the group should know?
Yeah, basically, I just think that people should be using this time. I say time because I don't actually have any more time. I have less time now during this COVID. I don't have any more time. But the thing is, I think that people should be using this time to sort of take a step back from their business, and not get too caught up in the fear and the should I pivot? What should I do? I should try this and this and this. I think you need to take time to reflect, step back, think about, okay, what's going to be the best option for you, rather than just jumping in and trying something next week, trying something else.
Yeah.
So whether that means, you make less sales for a week or a bit of less money or whatever for a couple of weeks or something, but it's going to pay off in the long term if you take the time to reflect, then make really conscious decisions and conscious changes to your business. And think about, just take the long-term view. It's easy to get sucked into the fear of everything now. So I don't watch the news. I rely on my family just telling me what's happening, because it's easy to get sucked into the fear mindset, and it's your mood and everything like that. So it's just take it easy and slow, and just make conscious choices and decisions that are going to still be in line with your long-term vision.
I love that. That's the thing. And I think, making sure that you don't just freak out, be strategic about it, make sure you honestly take a step back. And none of us are perfect. And I think that's the best thing. Just look after yourself, take that 5 minutes, go for that walk, and just be good to your team as well, because everyone's going through a shit time. So thank you so much. That was really, really great. And I really appreciate it. As I said, please, we'll post it up, the group challenge, and excuse me, maybe put a bit of info around it. So we can get as many people in this group so you can help them. I think that's amazing. So thank you again, and look after yourself, and I hope you get some time to yourself with your kiddies. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.